Hi, my name is Amanda Ehst, and I'd like to share some thoughts on the readings for September 21st. I know most of the world celebrates January 1st as the time for new beginnings, and in the church, Advent marks the new year, but I can't help but think of September as the time for new beginnings as the air cools and teachers and students head back to school. As we sit here on the cusp of the autumnal equinox next weekend, I cannot help but be grateful for the gift of the changing of the seasons. There is grace in each season, and I think fall might be my favorite. As leaves and flowers change and die and nourish the earth only for new life to come forth in the spring, it is a reminder that we can let go of things, to not hold on too tightly, and that even when things feel like they're falling apart, even dying, God has other plans. The first reading this week is found in Amos chapter 8, and the words feel like a timely reminder of what God values and calls us to pay attention to. Amos is prophesying to the wealthy religious leaders of the northern kingdom, Israel, and warning them of the consequences of their injustice, greed, and hypocrisy. Hear this, you that trample on the needy and bring to ruin the poor of the land, saying, when will the new moon be over so that we may sell grain? And the Sabbath, so that we may offer wheat for sale. We will make the ephah small and the shekel great, and practice deceit with false balances, buying the poor for silver and the needy for a pair of sandals, and selling the sweepings of the wheat. The Lord has sworn by the pride of Jacob, surely I will never forget any of their deeds. As we approach the season of harvest, these words remind us we will reap what we have sown. Jesus told us what was valued by God, caring for the poor and needy among us, not trampling on them for our own benefit. The second reading from 1 Timothy chapter 2 is another reminder about how we treat others. In this case, a reminder specifically about how we treat our leaders. It's so easy to complain about the people in leadership, but that does not align with Paul's instructions to Timothy. First of all, then, I urge that supplication, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for everyone, for kings and all who are in high positions, so that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and dignity. Is anyone else feeling a bit humbled right about now? This is right and acceptable in the sight of God our Savior, who desires everyone to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. When we are at work, are we quick to complain about our supervisors or our bosses or our boards? Are we quick to complain about political leaders when their decisions don't align with what we want? How would the world change if every time we were tempted to complain, we prayed instead? How would that practice change us? The gospel this week comes from Luke 16 and tells of a parable that I've always struggled with a little bit. In the first 13 verses, we find the story of the dishonest manager who, upon learning he was about to be fired, met with the various people who owed his master money and reduced their bills. Verses 8 and 9 are where I always get stuck. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Being shrewd is not necessarily positive or negative, but the tone here tells us that it wasn't a good thing. The lesson is not in the poor behavior, but in the creativity and cleverness with which the steward tries to preserve his way of life. What if we all worked so hard? We're so clever in how we steward the gifts of God in our lives. Do we work as hard for kingdom matters as we do for money? The following verses make this clear. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will you trust with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. The lessons this week are about priorities. We will be held accountable for how we steward what we have been given. And when we truly make Jesus Lord of our life, our priorities will fall into line. As we wrap up this week, I want to share a personal experience and a challenge. Years ago, as a friend of mine and I were walking through a period of waiting, we clung to the phrase, "expect miracles." It's amazing what you see when you're looking for it. Just like when you're considering a new car that you're going to buy, you suddenly see that model of car everywhere. There aren't suddenly more Hondas on the road because you're thinking about buying one. They were always there. You're just noticing them. We're surrounded by miracles, large and small, every day. Are you noticing? God's grace sometimes feels like a miracle, and the surprise can overwhelm us. I was in a situation recently where I was really angry with another person. And as I spent several days reflecting on the most recent conversation, and then a number of phrases that this person had said over a period of time, my anger changed to sadness. I realized this person was unable to see the gift of grace in their own life. And believe me pointing that out is not going to go over well. I thought about how we are chosen by God, how our baptism is from God, and there's nothing we can ever do to earn God's love. There's nothing I can do that's going to make God love me any more than he already does, and there's nothing I can do to make him love me any less. God's mercies are new every morning. His grace is abundant and his love overflows. I just have to open my eyes and see it. I used the phrase "surprised by God's grace" the other morning to describe the shift in my own heart. I wasn't looking for grace in this situation. Sometimes holding on to anger feels kind of good. But God softened my heart and reminded me how much I am loved. I challenge you to look for miracles, evidences of God's grace every day. You might find they're everywhere, just like that new car. And when you see one, tell a friend. Be blessed.